And I'll just kind of talk about this since I only have about 10 more minutes, just using SQL. And maybe we can talk about this a little bit next time too. So just kind of quickly showing you that you can do, for example, create databases, which I realized I have to delete this since I already made it earlier. Okay, so one thing you can do when we talk about like dealing with data and stuff like this, sometimes you'll hear people talk about CRUD, C-R-U-D. Has people heard this before? Give me a thumbs up if you guys heard this before. Okay, so CRUD stands for create, read, update, delete, right? So SQL servers, you can create things, you can create tables, you can read, information. That's what we're doing with select. You can update tables, and you can also delete, information off of tables and stuff like this. So I just want to show you a couple of things you can do. In general, depending on what your state is, you might only be doing reading data. You might never actually have either permission or you shouldn't be, basically inserting new things and stuff like this. But sometimes you need to do that. So first thing, of course, we need to connect to our database. Note that planets.db does not exist right now. Note this database basically is a new database. I'm going to create it. And so just to kind of prove to you guys, you can see here, planets.db is gone. It's not there. I create this cursor here, and I believe it shouldn't show up now. Oh, it does. Okay. And you'll see here that on the side here, 0 bytes. There's nothing there. Okay. So that makes sense because we made a new database that has nothing in it. So note that this cursor, we're making that connection. Like I said, sometimes you might actually have a different connection to a server and you actually have to put in the URL, but since we just have a file, we're just going to do that. And so I'm going to create a new table called planets. Okay. And I'm going to, when I create a new table, I have to also create like what the columns are going to be. So in this case, I'm going to do ID, name, color, number of moons, mass. And you can see here, I have to give it each its type. So integer, text, integer, real. There's also bool. And there's also sometimes other formats depending on your SQL server. But I think the other one is, oh my gosh, why am I blanking on this? Is it's basically like binary data. So like if you wanted to put like data for like an image.
Bob.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think is it binary object? I can't remember. I never remember acronyms very well. But the point is that there's another type that I don't have in here. So note that I also have to give it a primary key. So I'm saying, oh, the integer ID is going to be its primary key. And this just makes it easy for me. Okay. I can also add a new column, current.execute. So note that basically instead of having select or create table here, I'm doing alter table and then add column ring. So let's say, oh, I wanted to add rings in here. So I can actually add rings in here. And now my table actually has rings. I believe now it actually has written stuff. So you can see here, now it's a little bit bigger. Note that if you ever try to say, oh, I want to see what's in this table, and you try opening this up, it doesn't work. Basically, this is not something you can open up and look at. Like, you're like, oh, what's in this file? It's basically encoded for SQLite to basically be kind of condensed. So sometimes people will try to open these files up and they're like, oh, I can't find, there's nothing in the database, but there's something there. It's like, that's because you got to use SQLite to basically read it off. So just kind of be aware of that issue. Okay, so we got some new stuff in there. There's nothing really interesting yet. There's no, it's an empty table. So we might as well insert some stuff. So note that you can basically insert multiple values in here. So note this insert into the table name, and this is the column name in what order that we're putting it in, and then the values, and see that they're basically just tuples that we're passing through here. Okay, so you can see here, Mercury, Venus, these values are made up. Don't think that they're accurate and stuff like this. Pluto shouldn't be there, but whatever. Okay, so you can see I inserted it all in there, and you can see it gives me just a confirmation saying, oh, it returns the cursor. So it's just saying, hey, the cursor did stuff. So now we can say, okay, what if I want a new table, right? So let's say I have exoplanets, right? Kind of the same idea here. I can also do this like before, alter the table, and I can insert new values in here. Again, all made up stuff. Okay, cool. Everyone follow me so far? Any questions about this? No? Cool. And you can see, like I said over here, you can see the planets is actually being updated and stuff like this. Okay. Cool. One thing to note is that, well, okay, we'll see this in a second. So now I can actually start exploring this, right? So we saw here, select name from SQLite table. We can see all the tables. So you can see planets, exoplanets. Cool. We can now select the planet name from planets, and we can see here, hey, we get all the planet names. All right. We can also do, same thing for exoplanets, but we're getting all the values. Awesome. We've seen this before about how to get the descriptions and all that stuff. Okay. So look pretty good so far. And like I showed, you can create your own functions, or use something that's already been built and use that stuff. Some quick more exploration, like I have, you can see this stuff. Oh, one thing you'll notice, have you guys seen this 3 quotation marks? Okay, you guys all understand like that's just multi-lines of like strings, really useful. So I have that in there. And you can see here, I can get this part, but you kind of notice it's kind of hard to read. We already have a little example of this. You can see I'm kind of repeating myself, right, from this other thing. And you can see it's like, okay, well, we can actually write this thing and we can make these data frames. So it makes it nice and easy. Okay. One thing I wanted to show with really quickly, we got 2 minutes. I can do it in 2 minutes. Is you want to make the server do all the work, right? Don't make your computer do the hard work. You can hear my computer kind of like, I don't know if you guys can hear this, but it's kind of breathing a little bit, a little harder, right? You want the server, the big old server that's gonna, foot the bill, right? So the idea here is that if you do aggregations and stuff like this, you can do it in Pandas. You could get all the tables and do it in Pandas, but there's some obviously issues with that. And then there's the SQL way. So you can kind of see in, this is gonna be the Pandas way, where I basically get all the information from planets, right, from the table. I'm reading it in, get a data frame, got this part. I'm say, okay, now I just want to aggregate by moons, basically saying which moons aggregated df.number of moons, .value count, saying how many moons each planet has, and then saying, okay, well, there's basically 2 planets have 2 moons, 2 planets have 0 moons, and then you see 14 moons, 16 moons, there's only 1 planet for each of those, right? So let's say I wanted to see, oh, how many moons does each one have? So you can do it this way, right? If you want to do the SQL way, we could do select number of moons, counts star, basically as planets count, so basically how many planets, and we are doing a group by number of moons. So this is an aggregation right here. So note that this basically allows you to do this on the SQL side. And a lot of times these are more optimized too, where maybe this actually will take a longer time than this guy right here. But the important part is that also it's the server. You don't have to worry about your own computer doing it. Okay, does it make sense? And you can see here, this effectively does the same exact thing. And then just seeing filtering for colors, same thing. I can say, okay, let me get all the ones that are blue. You can see, there we go. And you can see it's kind of longer, right? SQL way, you can kind of do it a little bit quicker. So you can see here where lower planets dot like blue. So this is kind of a quick string part right here. Okay. And you can see here, very quickly go through this part. So honestly, it's not like a strict like, oh, you need to do it this way versus another way, but you might find some advantage of doing it in SQL, and it's just a good thing. A lot of people's interviews, they ask to go over SQL and stuff like this. So no. Okay, so next time, I'm running out of time, so I'm gonna have a second, but next time we'll talk about a little bit more SQL, maybe show you guys some more advanced stuff. For example, I think there's a with command that I don't think the curriculum talks about, and we'll talk about subqueries a little bit too. Basically just tables within tables. And then we'll maybe touch a little bit, just talk about NoSQL, and then we'll talk about APIs. And we'll make sure to have plenty of time for APIs and everything. Cool. All right. All right, everyone. Well, take care. And I will see you all tomorrow.